going on. How's your day been? Were you casting sub replays, still catching up, or were you laddering?
I barely started.
Oh, okay.
I was meant to start at like 9-ish, but I ended up sitting in Zombie Grub's chat and shit posting for an hour and a bit, and then lost track of time.
No worries. Good way to start the day. I took a while to get ready this morning as well. Can you make me the lobby host?
Oh, I guess.
Free. I linked you the Google document, so you got that in
Oh, I got it
Discord.
open already. I was just making sure that I was.
Oh, okay. I don't see you as viewing it. Can you type in it? Are you able to?
Oh, hang on. Oh, I closed it because I was trying to find dark mode. Someone in my chat, or Shane was in my chat saying, "Oh, you can dark mode Google Docs," because I was complaining about how it was burning my eyes with the rays of 1,000 suns. And he's like, "Oh, it's a plugin," and I'm like, "Oh, sorry. If it takes more than 2 clicks, I'm not going to do it."
Yeah, not while you're live on stream. If it's literally like file button, then it's
yeah.
Cool, man. Okay, so in terms of before we look too much at this replay, let's talk game plan and kind of what is going on. So are you still doing 3cc builds? Are we more 2-base oriented? What are we?
I feel I tried a bunch of 2-base builds where I would just like cut SCVs after having 2 bases of saturation and 3 gases, and then just mass Marines. Like make 5 barracks and just amass Marines basically on 2 bases.
Tanks and medevacs and just like doom dropping and stuff. Or
tanks, medevacs, and like a couple Vikings, and then push with Stim and a couple Ravens. But then I was like, I don't like this. I don't like how it feels. I don't like it's abrasive against my skin, so I shelved it. And this particular game is a bit more what I feel like feels a bit better for me. This is a 3cc game.
So we're doing, is it 3cc, second and third barracks?
Yeah, third CC,
then double eBay?
Second and third barracks, yes.
Second and third barracks, double eBay. Do we go gases after the eBays on the net? I guess you get a fast third gas, right? I imagine you're doing
third gas because I'm making 2 Ravens.
Yeah. Fast third, double. Okay, so we're just doing real generic standard pro TvT right now.
I'm generic as fuck, yeah.
Cool. And we're doing a 2 gas opening. You're leaving 3 guys on gas here in this early game. Is this normal?
Well, actually, I take them out as soon as the factory goes down. See, there it is.
Okay.
Well, not as soon as, like, a little bit too late on that.
Slight delay, but that's okay. I think, and then you just leave it on 2, and then we go CC before starport, right?
No, I think I go starport next.
And we're going straight Ravens before natural?
Okay. I don't remember.
Like, I mean, the fact that we're going starport this early is very early. And we're going CC on the high ground.
I did this because I thought something was coming at me aggressive. See, I got my Reaper patrolling on the ledge there and my Marines. So, sorry, this is not my exact normal opening.
But do you normally go expand after starport? Yeah? Like, it's the same timing, it's just the location that's different,
Normally,
right?
expansion before starport, sorry. So this is actually not...
Okay, yeah, okay, so you are doing the normal build normally. Okay, good. Because the starport this fast is shit. It's just like you really need to be doing like some sort of drop or a liberator. Or you got to do something to the opponent if you're delaying your expansion this long. Because if they do like a 1-rax FE, like they're just like 8 SCVs ahead of you. Okay. But that should be fine because you saw 2 barracks in this game.
Yeah,
so,
I just checked my vision. I saw 2 barracks and I thought there was like a 3-rax Reaper basically coming across the map at me, which I've had before. So I expanded on the high ground and went for a fast starport because usually if it is 3-rax Reaper, I usually just sit in my base and hold and then kill them with a Banshee.
Cool.
That's what
I think you would have been fine versus that. You built a second Marine before Reactor. You built a Hellion. If they were proxied, I would definitely hope there would be some bunkers and maybe a second Hellion building before Tech Lab and that sort of shit. But barracks at home is light, so we don't really need to stress too much. So yeah, this seems like a totally fine response. Okay, so the plan is Bio Tank Raven. Before we look too much at the game, let's think about what are the situations that are fucking us. I remember previously you were having trouble just when it gets to tank versus bio with trying to kind of have any rhythm with where you move on the map, how to apply pressure, how to attack. You'd always end up headbutting into tanks or getting frustrated that you can't break the tank line. Like, are you still kind of in that mode where it's a bit hard to find what you should be doing with your army in the mid game?
I think I don't really know when to move out is something, but I'm sort of it's a bit frustrating because in this particular matchup it's different than TvZ and TvP where I have a specific attack timing. I know when to attack.
Yeah.
But in TvT I still don't know when to attack. I'm going to expand. I'm going to go up to 3 bases in this game, and then make extra barracks and stuff. But one thing I am changing is if I'm not being attacked right, if I'm not going to get attacked and I get to do my actual build,
Yeah.
then I put spotter units out and get a sensor tower or 2, so that if something's going to come at me, I can get in position. Because I found that even if I was just sitting there on 3 bases, I would just die to a push because they would catch me unawares and siege on me, and I'd be like, oh, okay, well, this is happening.
You've got to be, yeah. I mean, there's definitely going to be a few things. So number one, we want to have a default push timing. We got to have that. 2 Ravens, 3 tanks. You fucking go across that map and you go punch your opponent in the face. Okay. So with that, benchmark it. Benchmark it is going to be the big way that you can do your focus goal, right? It's like, hey, I'm aiming for, we're going to hit at 6 minutes with 2 Ravens, 3 tanks. We got 10 Marines, 2 Reapers, a Hellion, whatever the unit count is. And we don't give a fuck about trying to hit a pro gamer timing because that's like the worst thing we can focus on, right? Because we're just going to be constantly comparing ourselves to an impossible goal. That's the stars. Aim for the stars, land on the moon. The moon is going to be just trying to do better than your previous game each time, right? Like benchmark against your first execution of it. So like look at a replay, go, all right, when did I have the 2 Ravens, the 3 tanks? How many units did I have? Did I have my 2 Vikings were kind of rallying in as I got to their base or something like that? Like just benchmark it, and that way you can really track your progress and see how hard you're hitting your opponent. And that's just a good push to go for because I'm sure it's much easier to just initiate the fight, run in, drop auto turret, siege your tanks first, and crush the fight if they don't react quick enough. Whereas if you're on the receiving side, it's easy to get dicked a little bit. So that will skill check your opponents. If you get someone who doesn't keep building Ravens, tanks, Vikings, and just instead is like double eBay, 3CC, factory and starporter sitting idle, it just punishes them for that. And it also gives you a unit set where if you run into them having an even scarier army, you've already got a good set of units, so you can always pull home and use it defensively, right? So that's nice because that should win you some games or get you a massive advantage, that push timing, right? We always got to have a memorized push timing as a Terran player. Otherwise, we can macro really well, but we never use the advantage, and then it kind of drifts away over time, right?
Yeah. I just it's this matchup always feels awkward because not only has it been like this is one of the very rare non-aggressive TvTs that I've played. Like all my level and even a bunch of like the Masters people that I'm friends with, it just seems to be like rampantly aggressive, this matchup. Got a lot of proxies and one base attacks and that sort of thing. So
there's a lot of just early tech unit dances as well, right? Like, I mean, most openings, like your opening is a kind of delayed expansion, right? So if your opponent's doing a 1-rack FE, you should be the one pressuring with 2 Reapers and a Hellion and potentially doing some damage. So I think definitely...
I saw 2 racks in this game, and I'm so used to aggression that I expected Reapers. So my whole build was upset, and my Reapers and Hellions were at home the whole time.
But it was good though, right? Because he went like 2 racks factory into a CC. So I mean, we've got earlier Ravens than him. This is totally fine. This is totally all right.
I was thinking maybe it's a drop timing, with extra barracks. So I was having I wanted 2 Ravens, Vikings, and then I'm getting my extra production now. But
what's the plan? Do you always go 6 Vikings and then just medevacs from there? Do you like kind of non-stop Vikings?
I start making medevacs, or I'm supposed to be making medevacs when Stim's about to be finished. Because I feel like my medevacs, the reasoning there is just I feel like medevacs don't give me anything until Stim is done, because they're there to heal my bio. And I'd rather have Vikings and some Ravens out in case the guy is trying to push me or drop me.
Yeah. At the same time, of course, if they continue hitting that Viking count, you got to be really conservative with those Vikings and always keep them at the back of your army, right? Because there's nothing worse than fighting 6 versus 10 Vikings or something like that, right? So the sad thing that happens if we go 6 Vikings and don't really get to use them and they keep building Vikings is they kind of become really fucking shit units when we're outnumbered, right? So that's okay. It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, we'll keep them in reserve, and then, if your opponent comes too deep or something, like the Vikings can still help later. You can also use them for harass. Sometimes if my opponent's like one of those mech players who never stops building Vikings, and I've just got like 2 or 3 left over from the early game, like you have here, I'd like split them off, and I'd be like, all right, there's a Viking here, and can you see my signals?
Yep.
And 2 up here, and I'd just like be like, all right, I'm just gonna like queue those to land in the mineral line at some point, right? And it's actually an awesome harassment unit, so that's like another utility you can get for those early Vikings.
This guy was definitely one of the weirder Terrans that I played because he started going into bio and getting bio upgrades, and then just started going full mech. Spoilers. And
Well,
he's
yeah.
chilling with like so many turrets and like Vikings on patrol everywhere.
This guy's never watched a pro game in his life. I would
Okay.
bet. This guy's just kind of made up his own way of playing the game. So he's a unique snowflake, which is great. This is like, I love seeing people play the game their own way, right? He's figured it out his own way. He's like, he went building armor before getting 1-1. You know, he's gone just like non-stop tank Viking production. He said, I don't want to use spellcasters. I'm not making ravens, man. He's like, fuck that shit. I'm just gonna make Vikings. I'm gonna build turret rings. Maybe he's watched a Villos stream. I don't know, but you can tell he's just a weird kind of biomech mix. It doesn't really have any rules about production. It's 2 barracks bio, right? Like, it's just kind of weird. It doesn't matter too much though, because this is kind of a good testing zone for, are we doing our standard thing? So the first thing is, okay, well, we made 2 ravens, we didn't push out. Let's go back in this game and let's visualize what that push would have looked like. And this is one of the best things to look at replays. Once we come up with a clear push timing, we go back, we look at our replay, go, okay, what the fuck would that push have looked like? Well, first things first, I think our third tank should have been out a lot quicker. So let's check, because you've had 2 ravens out for a while. So let's see if there was any downtime on that factory. Because the thing is, you've been forced into a 1 base C build, and obviously you're not going to have the third gas up quick. So there's going to be a little bit of downtime on that factory with the CC being up there, which sucks. But let's see. I think we forget this third. Oh no, actually, I think we're okay with tank production. Let me see. It's been now about 10 seconds downtime.
I'm out of gas because of the Raven. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
I think that's just my CC not being on location, having that third gas a little bit later than I normally would.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
There's still a bit of downtime more than is needed on those tanks. So
for sure.
That's something like when you start benchmarking, you can prioritize it. Because imagine if that tank was out by now and then we started moving out. Let's say we get to his base 635 or something. So let's fast forward to 635. He doesn't have any vision out front. All right. Imagine you come in here, you drop a scan, you go, okay, that's a big old arc of tanks. Fuck. I would just run forward and siege right here on this bottom side of the natural, because there's only 1 tank in range at interference matrix or that 1 tank. And then I'm in range of your gases and your command center. Get fucked. And
so you mean like right next to
just to the right of the pillar, like, you know, the pervert pillar. Yeah. The
LNT.
LNT. That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think that stands for?
Dude, my brain went somewhere that I'm not going to say out loud.
Long-nailed toes. Long-nailed toes.
Yeah, the long-nailed toes club.
It's the long-nailed toes club.
It smells really gross in there.
So by sieging up there, you would fuck your opponent's build really hard. He'd be losing a gas. He'd lose that tank, because you just walk in. Even if you take a tank shot, it doesn't matter, right? As long as the interference matrix goes down, it doesn't get any more off. You siege, that tank gets one-shotted. If he derps and comes down, you kill everything. You basically win the game. If not, you just chill there, and you keep your ravens behind your tanks. And, you know, if the Vikings come down and chase you off, you're like, oh, okay, got to pull them back, use the Marines on hold position, maybe drop another scan if he tries to inch his tanks forward. And just doing your normal build behind it, right? The important thing is to not sink a crazy amount of APM into it. It's just, if they're fighting you, if both your armies clash, that's where you really want to focus, micro it, you know, make the best decision. But if you're ever able to siege up in range of a base, you hang out. And then the rule is you hang out for like maybe a minute. And if they haven't been crashing units into you and getting fucked, you can just leave after like a minute, at most 2 minutes. Because at that point, well, who knows if they've got stim and 2 medevacs and they've loaded up in their main and they're boosting across the map. You know, we've got macro to focus on. We've already kept him contained. We don't need to stay there. Let's just get up, go home, and then we can come back with our next push. So let's talk about that next push.
Alrighty.
I would say it is basically, normally with your build, you're going to be establishing your third. You're going to be going up to 5 racks. Second factory, I imagine, for more tank production.
Yeah, 5 racks first, then second factory.
Cool. And then do we like extra barracks from there? Do you end up in the starport game sometimes? I'm a big fan of players ignoring the starport game and just playing biotank.
Okay, so these are the 2 types of TvTs that I play on.
Yeah.
I mean, this is NA, but on Korea, which is where I laddered the most recently. The 2 style of TvTs I play are, I'm either getting proxied by Reapers, or they're sitting behind tanks and turrets and massive DCs.
And are you nuking that, or how are we trying to
nuking that? I wish I was nuking that. I keep forgetting about nukes, man.
Start nuking it. Okay. All right. Well, in a normal game, I'd say we try to stay real focused on the biotank, right? From there, after the second fact, normally it's a 4th CC. and then extra barracks or extra starports. But as long as it's just always the one that we're more comfortable with, I would say barracks and just, be more mobile if it's an action-packed game. And those barracks can have tech labs, and you can go straight into Ghost Academies if they're being a super turtle guy. If you do your push well, though, against mech players, you'll find often you disrupt their build enough with the Raven push. Like, that's... Euthermal wins the game with that push or the next one every game, right? Because he's super tight. So there's a lot we can focus on with getting advantages there. But if you do disrupt them or whatever, there's usually a moment there with your first few medevacs where you can start, like, doing drops and boosting in. And as they go down to their third, we can find another angle. So the next timing is a stim bio tank push that looks for an angle on the as they take their third. So if we think about it, often they take their third, they move their defenses down to here and here. On this map, one of the most common areas I push once they take that third is the exact same angle down here towards the natural, where they've only got 1 or 2 tanks covering. Push in, get between the rallies, get on in range of the command center again, and fuck them. If most of their army's hanging there, I might come around the north side, siege up on the top, and try to get in on the command center from the top right on that third. But either way, it's only really once they move out to a third that we start getting new angles to siege up. And our goal is always get forward, siege up in range of something, and then just like keep expanding and doing shit. And you can finish the game by dropping and doing stuff. But often they're going to bleed into you. They're going to try to break you. They're going to take the bad fight, right? The whole, thing of TvT is insane defender's advantage. I'm going to put my defenses on your base and hope you fight into them like a dummy. And if you're good enough with it, usually they'll get stressed out enough and they will fight into your siege up. So that's kind of the game plan in a quote-unquote normal biotank game. I think it's good to kind of have that mapped out. So in this game, I mean, let's kind of figure out some markers to define that a little bit more. So, I mean, let's imagine we did our push. Maybe we lost some units, whatever. Is it kind of here at this point as we're like our first medevacs come out? We've got stim, we've got a decent little marine count, and we've got some Vikings and stuff. Do you think, what do you think is the marker for that? So like if you open up your document, if you can write down a few points just there, I've created a little sub list under next timing of just like the things that you want to see to make you go, okay, it's time to go. Because it's pretty fluid. It's more just about having triggers that make sense for you, that like feel good to you.
I honestly have no idea.
Gotta make a decision. The most powerful thing in StarCraft, having no idea what the fuck's going on, choosing a decision and sticking to it, right? It's the hardest thing, because we feel like we're gonna do the dumb thing, but the golden rule, right, is if we don't make a decision, we're gonna play 1,000 times worse. Whereas if we make a dumb decision and execute it well, we'll usually be way better off than doing the right decision but executing poorly. So remember, stupid always wins in StarCraft. It may be the biggest brain game in the world, but if you're umming and ahhing, you're gonna get fucked. So
yeah,
just choose some markers.
Match up, which is why I lose it the most. Actually, no, I don't lose this. I lose TvP the most now.
Okay.
Things have shifted.
Well, let's just choose some markers here for what you feel your army should look like, or maybe it's after you finish off some macro tasks, like, getting down the extra factory finished or the 4th base down. Maybe it's, I mean, I think it should be to do with what units you have out, because you're like, oh, this is the right set of units with some nice upgrades now. But yeah, what do you think?
What, when I should move out?
Yeah, for the second push.
Well, I haven't done a single push yet, but you mean theoretically?
Theoretically, you've already done a double Raven 3 tank push. We've traded out some units. We've done some damage. We've pulled back. He's taken his third. We've taken our third. Similar situation to here. We're not looking at what he's got, just what you've got. What are you seeing as the trigger to move out?
I guess, like an upgrade timing.
Not a big fan of the upgrade timing. I think that takes too long, especially if we forget our upgrades a little bit.
Well,
so
you tell me, man.
It's not bad, but I feel like we might wait too long, right? Because if we wait till then, I think we're going to have like 170, 180 supply like in this game, and I think that'll probably be pretty common. So unless you find your 2/2s really cranking out early, like we should probably choose something else. So I mean, if you think about it, it's just about having a unit set you feel comfortable moving out of the map with. So I'm gonna be stubborn here. I'm gonna make you choose Maynarde, because I think it's like the best thing ever to make sure you define it yourself. Because like I said, I don't have an exact strong point here. It's when it feels good for you. So I kind of want you to tailor this build yourself, because you got to own it.
God. I mean, I'm going now. Why am I going now? I'm trying. I can see my army moving. I'm like, why am I going now? What was I thinking right now? I can't even remember. I guess as I take my fourth, I think maybe like another good time to attack, right, is when I'm expanding.
Okay.
So as I'm taking a fourth potentially. I think I put it on location too, or maybe I put it by my third. I can't remember.
So that's definitely a later timing, but I'm okay with it. If that feels comfortable to you, you're like, I've got my second fact.
In this matchup, I'm just like, there is no comfort. There's zero comfort at any point.
Yeah. I think as you start having push timings, you'll feel more comfortable. For me, every time I lose push timing in any matchup, I feel like a lost, wandering child in the fucking woods when I'm playing, whether it be TvZ, TvP, TvT. The moment I lose track of where I am in the game and I just fall into just macroing and not doing anything with my units, I find I'm perpetually surprised by where I'm attacked. I'm kind of unable to do it. So I think potential as taking a fourth. And I will give you a cheat sheet then. Let's say it's stim and you, because you said you start building some medevacs. Let's say as we get our first medevac. So stim and first medevacs, go look for that angle.
Okay.
So I think that'll be a good one. We can potentially do that as taking a fourth, but let's just do that. So that would be in this game, we've got stim, your first medevac's railing out somewhere around now. And the thing is, the earlier the better, because like the real power of TvT is getting across the map and fucking with your opponent. The reason I wanted you to do, the 2-base playback before was to get in the habit of dictating the pace and pushing into your opponent and really working on that as a skill set. Even though we're doing it with 3-base, we still want to err on the side of doing that. And kind of, there can be moments of missed macro, right? If we're busy managing our army and doing good stuff with it. As long as we do find the time to settle back into our macro rhythm in between doing those pushes and setting up those forward sieges, like it should be all good. But I really want to make sure we focus on like these 2 points are almost all your focus goes into your army management. When those 2 ravens and 3 tanks go across, you don't want to walk into siege tanks, get your army killed and go, I was too busy killing up a few more SCVs.
Did you say 3 ravens? I usually only have 2.
Sorry, 2 ravens, 3 tanks. Yeah, 2 ravens, 3 tanks. Same thing with this push. It can be all macro, which is what you normally focus on the entire game in TvT. You're macro, spend money. And you do a good job of it. You often out macro your opponents. But we want to shift really hard into, it's my time to focus on this engagement. And if I focus and if I get 1,500 minerals up during it, it's not the end of the world. That's like, as long as I'm using my army correctly, that's the skill set that's lacking right now. So there's going to be a bit of adjustment period where your macro looks shit and you need to train yourself out of being disgusted by it, right? Because the initial reaction is, fuck, my macro is shit as well in this matchup. But you'll find that if you can use your army correctly in TvT and set it up in the right spots, the damage is just insane. The amount it fucks your opponent's macro as well as doing direct damage is actually crazy. So TvT, it's all about position on the map, and we want to kind of focus on that, I think, as a big goal. So position on the map as a goal. Now, in that standard TvT, if you're a biotank, and it goes to late game, biotank versus biotank, say it's a real action-packed game, maybe both up on 4-base versus 4-base. So we're going to go 5 racks, 2 fact, 4th CC. Did you say you wanted to go more barracks from there as standard or starports? Which one did you say you liked?
Barracks.
So like 3 more racks with reactors is probably the standard next step, I guess. Just to have crazy marine production.
I spam reactors and everything. I think I have a single tech lab the whole game, I think.
Cool. Well, just that single one. Cool. That's good, man. All right, so we got that as a plan. Okay, cool. All right, now we've mapped out everything we need to do. That's always the most important part before we look at the game, right? Map out what we want to be doing in terms of what we were wanting to do in these games, as well as what we want to do in the future. Give ourselves some push timings. Now let's actually break down, engagements and stuff and take a look at what the fuck's going on. So the big thing here is normally if we were moving forward looking for angles, we'd be, interacting with our opponent more. We'd have more game sense of what's going on. What makes me really uncomfortable watching this replay is like the minutes on end of us not interacting with our opponent. And we're always going to kind of lose track of where our opponent is. They're going to get away with weird shit like biomech or BC switches. The game probably won't look quite like this once we start focusing on those 2 pushes and benchmarking them really hard and seeing what time am I hit, what units. So benchmark the second push as well, by the way. The second push timing. benchmark this as well. So after your first 2 push timings, it's basically just non-stop moving out armies, right? Moving out armies whenever we can to try and get forward position. That's the final push timings, right? It's just basically TvT should always be vying for map control and looking for forward siege ups as the game progresses. So this looks like a nice little scan. We didn't quite see the left-hand side, so we don't really know how many tanks are there. But we are trying to move forward here. We're thinking about coming in with a push.
So just to give you some before this fight before the fight happens.
Yeah.
I had a Marine on this expansion location, and I also had a Hellion on his 3rd location. And I knew he only just took his 3rd, or he was hiding a base, either or. And I saw that he was attempting to take that base, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to attack now and try and cut him off from that one. That was the whole idea here. It's
a good angle. Like this is exactly what I was talking about, right?
As well.
You just scanned. Yeah, you did. This is exactly the sort of push I was talking about. On this map, like, often they're undefended up here. This guy's actually pretty fucking methodical, man. Like, look at his base. Look at his main. You're playing against a Navillo wannabe. He's got 3 tanks in his main base. It's like...
Wow, yeah, I just realized. Damn.
Yeah, I just checked the control groups. He doesn't control group his units at all, which is what I expect. He has 6 tanks. Like, it's just a random selection of tanks that are control grouped. You know, you can tell from the way he's setting up his army that he doesn't really, use that. He's only got 2 factories and 2 barracks right now, whilst on like 5 command centers. So there's no real proper production. There's no proper upgrades. But it's a fucking impenetrable setup. So, I mean, I look at this game and I say, okay, if we get to this point, we really should have done something before now. If I've let a player get to this point, oh man, you can do it, but you kind of got to go, okay, 4th and 5th command center, make more barracks with tech labs, make 5 ghost academies. Like once they get to maxed out turret Viking Thor, you're not really going to find a big angle, right? You might, and it's good that we're going for it, but I think in your future games, you're going to have slowed the game getting down to this point by doing those 2 previous pushes. So with this push, you did a scan before. I would have loved you to do another scan here, since your first one didn't actually see if there was tanks up against the natural command center. That's what a lot of mech players kind of try to do. People might have two more tanks right up against that command center. So we're going to stim and go in. I guess a few more interference matrices would have made me really happy as well. What do you think?
I mean, I did want to, but I was afraid of the Thors. I'm pretty sure I locked down more tanks, but I misordered this. Normally, it's interference matrix first, siege, then go.
Yeah. So if you see the Thors next time, I guess how would we reorder that? I guess we just prioritize matrix the Thors first and then take out 2 tanks?
I think that was my plan. I'm trying to remember my headspace in this one, but I mean, if I was watching this, if I was watching Barcode and that wasn't me, I'd be like, yeah, you should get rid of these Thors and then use whatever's left on the tanks and overwhelm, because it doesn't look like that many units here.
I don't like the siege up. So the siege up needs to be way further forward because they're not in range of anything other than the front 2 tanks. So that doesn't really... If we're going to do that siege, there's no reason to use our Marines, right? If we are going to push forward, I would like your tanks to push up to about where your Cyclone and Marines are now and then siege up in the middle of the fight. And then try to kind of hold that position. So even if all your Marines get crushed down, hopefully they clear a few of the tanks and then you've got your tanks sieged. And that would have been a little bit nicer, because if you watch this, your tanks are going to kill 1 tank and a sensor tower, and then they're not really doing anything past that point. So it's, your bio here actually finds a lovely angle. If your tank sieged a bit further forward, that would have been really nice. And then once again, we inch forward. Yeah. So try to always, if you're ever going for a committed engage, the rule is siege your tanks way further forward, right? Okay. And that's why it's dangerous to go for a committed engage, and you got to have big balls and really know that you're committing, because you're literally saying we're going to take 2 tank volleys before we start sieging, basically. This is, I better fucking outnumber him, and I better only be fighting a fraction of his army with this push, right? I actually often like to move my tanks kind of almost forward so they take the first shot as well. Just so my Marines kind of come in, or hopefully it's like perfectly sync the Marines and tanks. It's very hard to time it perfectly. But I think as long as we say, make sure we siege deep whenever going for this, not just on the edge, so that we actually are taking position, right? Otherwise, not a bad engagement. At this point, I think you realize he's a mech player, right?
I mean, I'm still unsure, because at my level, it could be absolutely anything. Like anything.
You haven't really seen any Marines, though, right?
I mean, I don't, but I see Marauders with 1/1 upgrades and Sten, and I thought, is this bio with Thor's being thrown in because he's losing the air battle or something? Like, what's happening here?
Yeah, I mean,
I haven't seen his production.
you haven't scanned his production. I think normally when you start pushing more and interacting with your opponent, you'll have a much better idea of what's going on, and have categorized this guy already. But if you don't, I think we should always have a scan timing somewhere in there, right? If we're really forced to be turtly, maybe 5 minutes, 6 minutes, somewhere in that range. Just scan the production, just so we can kind of start to categorize what the fuck we're playing against. And if we did that right here, we'd be like, yeah, he's a weirdo, but he's playing mech. There's 2 factories, right? Off 2 barracks with no add-ons. We'd be like, okay, 100%. He's playing some weird mech shit. So what's your response against mech? So if we go to your document, I'm making a new, can you type it out as you say it? Response to mech. Just so off the top of your head, like what the dot points are that you kind of shift in your game plan once you realize it's mech. F10N?
Let's see. So my usual plan against mech is to expand faster.
All right, so
and then well, actually,
yeah.
my actual game plan, if I see mech earlier, is heavier air production.
Okay, so how and what are the details of that? Can you define that? Can you add some more sub points?
I absolutely cannot define it. I get them when I feel like I can.
Then do it right now. Write it out. So that's what you got to do. You just got to define things a little bit more. The moments of weakness, the moments where we don't know exactly what's going on, you got to just. What does heavy air production mean? Do we get a second starport? Do we get a third starport? Do we get a fusion core?
I usually get 3 starports and not fusion core, because the fusion core I just basically get it when I feel like it.
Yep. You're just focusing on winning the Viking battle initially.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I don't think I sometimes even forget the fusion core because I don't really have, I've never had a plan in TvT, no matter what I'm up against. Like, if it's mech, I'm like, oh, I want a lot of starports. And I usually, I keep making bio, but it's usually just Marauders.
Yeah.
And I keep making tanks, but I don't usually use them in attacks. I keep them at home.
Yeah, we've got to define this more, you know? Like, we can't just keep saying, I don't have a plan in this matchup. I don't know what I'm doing, right? Because the moment we keep saying that, that's a cop-out, where we're just kind of going, okay, I struggle in this, but, I mean, we're never going to get past that if we don't start just making choices. And like I said, it was like with that push. It's not necessarily about knowing what the best push timing is, but it's about choosing something and saying, okay, this feels like it might be okay. Let's stick with it. Let's be confident. Let's go with it. So write down the exact points for, okay, you've seen it's air. At what point do we go into, we've seen it's mech. At what point do we go into air production? Is it after our 5 barracks and 2 factories are up? Is it immediately, even if we've only got 3 barracks and 1 factory, we just go straight 3 starports?
Yes, the latter, actually.
Okay.
Yep, the latter.
Yeah. And are you going to build add-ons on those, or just straight produce 4 Vikings at a time, no add-ons, just to get it going as quick?
Yeah, just reactors. I mean, back in the day, I would have gone for a tech lab and some reactors, because I would normally have ravens at that point, but I don't keep making ravens from memory. It's been a long time since I've played an actual mech player.
All right,
they're BC players now, not mech players, but
write the points down. Write those points down. So as soon as you see it's mech, 2 more starports. Do you still get vehicle weapon upgrades, or do you just focus to full air upgrades?
I go air upgrades.
All right. So yeah, write that down. Right. So 2 more starports, air upgrades instead of vehicle weapons.
Plus 1 attack. I don't go for armor. I just get attack upgrades. So extra racks. So when I go, so my 3 racks usually has like 2 reactors and a tech lab. But if I go up to 5 more reactors, I get tech labs on the 4th and 5th.
Awesome. All right. So you get a bit more Marauder heavy. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. With the intention of getting ghosts, but I usually am dead before that point.
Marauders are not bad. Marines are still really good versus mech. It's just obviously, blue flame. and mines, shit on them. I'd say Marines and Marauders are about equally fucked by siege tanks, but you know, they're both good units. And the Marauders are a little more friendly.
It's more like I think the Marauder isn't even for the tanks because I want to get like the air army on that. The Marauders for me are like an anti-Hellion Hellbat thing more than anything else.
Much better for stopping run-bys and stuff. Yeah, they're very nice. Very nice for dropping as well. Hellions can't really deal with them. Gun down Cyclones. So that's cool. So we've got some good details there. And then I'm going to leave a little space on that. And then I'm going to add the next step because it's kind of separate, but it's kind of not. And that is resume the build. So what does that mean? It means like if we delayed second factory, extra racks, make sure we add those right after the starports. But what else is something else that we probably need to remember that's like a side effect of going 3 starports immediately? Gases on the 3rd as fucking fast as you can.
Yeah, I'll take all my gases for sure.
Yeah. What about, we didn't write the command center. You said you'd expand more quickly. So I guess we'd probably go expand more quickly would be in that list as well, right? Try to get some 4th and 5th base up relatively fast.
Yep, I would maybe just expand faster.
Cool.
Than normal. I mean, I'm actually trying to expand faster than normal anyway because I can always find myself oversaturated on the 3rd base in every single one of my matchups. Like,
yeah.
I think my 4th is always late. I just expand too slowly in general. But yeah.
Yeah, like
trying to make sure that I'm a base up on the mech guy.
I think that's a good way to play it. I think sometimes I go like 6-7 bases like crazy fast if I'm playing someone who I know is just going to sit on their ass for a long time like in a Villo. But this is awesome because now we have like an actionable set play where it's like, oh, see mech, hit this list. And the next time you play versus mech, watch the replay, compare it to this list. You're not going to do it properly and you're not going to do it in that order. And that's good because you'll then say, do it in that order next time. And you might get some of it right, but it'll be like some things you'll forget, you know. So it's just nice. Once you've got that real detailed list, it's going to be really, really organized. I think the starports, don't bother with reactors is what I'm going to say. So I'm going to add a little bit of knowledge because you're building 4 Vikings at a time. You're going to overtake him in no time. Okay. So no add-ons until you take control of the air. It's more important to just get the Viking advantage out and then add some libs in there, right? Which is going to be nice. The other thing I would also add in here would be, what was it? Fuck, there was something that was very important, and I'm having a mental blank. There's 2 more starports. We're playing against mech. We're getting air upgrades. We're adding tech labs. So we'll need more gases. We'll go. Delay upgrades if you need to. So if gas starved, remember, bio armor upgrades can be sacrificed. You don't need them. They're not important against mech, right? Oh, I got +2 armor on my Marine. Tank shot. Hellion shot doesn't give a fuck. So bio armor upgrades can be sacrificed for air production, right? So in terms of like gas spending, air takes full priority. Totally fine if one of our eBay is just chilling doing nothing, right? And we're just getting +2 bio attack. We could even technically not get +2 bio attack, but that's just one of those super advanced tweaks. You probably won't remember at first. It's not too important, but one of those things that you know, if we find ourselves scouting mech very late and then we like start 2-2 and we can't keep up Viking production, it's like, hold on a sec, get rid of that +2 armor. That's worth nothing if we're going for an air battle. So that'll be pretty sick. All right, so we just out-expanded this fucker in this game, which was cool. Let's check out this next push after your first one.
Okay.
Man, you got a lot of workers up in this game. Hot damn.
Yeah, I'm pretty much just in a constantly building SCV kind of mode because I've caught myself not building enough.
Yeah. I'd say 80 is kind of the max you want.
I think 80 is where I'm going. I might go over actually, but yeah.
You go about 88, 89 this game. You got to like almost 90, which is just a bit too crazy because like by this point it's like, well, technically a lot of orbitals is the next step in a build order for Terran at this point, right? Just build like 5 orbitals and use mules. But you know, we lose track in terms of everything that's going on. So I want you to watch from your camera right now. This last 20 seconds, this engagement on the top. So this is perfect. The idea of siege up, hold a location, create a problem, and then push on the opposite angle. This is perfect textbook TvT positioning that you're doing here. But I want you to tell me what's wrong with this push on the right. So watch from your camera. You're gonna zoom there in a second. And
I'm not scanning ahead, maybe?
fuck yes. That's it. Because you have no idea what's on this base, and you stim in completely blind. We have no idea what we're going into. And then we siege the tanks out of range of the planetary. There's no defense there. There's one siege tank. Likewise, we could have accidentally walked into 5 siege tanks just then, right? So we've got to just make that habit, scan ahead of the army, and just use scans so liberally once you get to this point in TvT. I actually encourage people not to drop any mules once they get to the mid-game. So there's 2 ways we can focus on that. One is just don't drop any mules and just only use scans. The other is build a fuck ton of orbitals, but that doesn't kick in until much later. So I feel like we've got to make sure we're just a little bit more liberally using scans for scouting. Probably from the point when you do your second push. No more mules, only scans. I think that's a really good rule to make sure you're using your army correctly. What do you reckon?
Oh, back up there. I was just looking for your cursor. Yep.
Yeah, I just added it there from like basically from the time where the armies are constantly clashing. Like, you know, you're still at 120 supply or something, and every marine counts. I'm okay with you dropping some mules, right? Like, just try to use marine spotters and stuff. But once you're at one
point, like, yeah. I remember in this particular game, I'm like, I've got this guy by the short hairs, and I like felt like I was pretty far ahead. Because I knew that he was like down in bases and I was going towards a 5th base. And I'm like, oh, I'm maxed. I'm just going to throw shit at him. You know, I wasn't...
Yeah.
I wanted him to come to me. And yeah, obviously I want to be in range of that planetary, so that's a mistake for sure. But I'm just trying to pick off whatever I can here.
Yeah, we just end up spending way more APM there than needed. Oh, sorry, guys. I accidentally swapped scene when I was typing the document. No worries. Thank you, Dr. Ryan. So basically, just remember as well, do you remember to retarget your tanks when they're sieged in range of a planetary? Because that's something a lot of Terrans just completely forget about. Is like when they
tanks.
Because you know they'll just keep shooting the planetary. Like if he jumps on you here, you've got to shift click those tanks on the army, or they'll just keep shooting the planetary. So
I didn't actually know that. I just let them do their thing.
Yeah, so this is actually one of the sometimes I notice someone sieges all their tanks in range of the planetary, and I go, ooh. And I'm master preparing, I just stim marines in and kill the tanks for free. So the tanks are just shooting the planetary, and like, if they don't have marines in front of the tanks, like you've got your marines at least guarding the tanks and stuff, but I could literally, like if your marines weren't here and you weren't microing it, someone could stim 1 marine in and just shift click and it would kill all 4 tanks.
Really?
Yeah, because they'll just keep shooting the planetary. So you've actually got to change targets, because it's like, oh, they're all attacking units. The planetary is just as much as a threat. They're not going to change targets until they kill their existing thing, and then they'll reacquire target. So yeah, just be a little bit aware of that. If I know I'm too busy in the game, there's too much multitasking, I'll only siege like 2 or 3 tanks in range of the planetary, so that I don't have to watch it, because the rest will automatically shoot other shit that comes in range, which is like the lazy man's way of making sure your tanks are not going to be idiots and waste all their shots. So that's like a cool little thing we got to keep in mind sometimes.
All right.
Yeah, like here we can
no
see
idea.
it. Yeah. Look at these dumb tanks, man. Who trained them? They're so stupid.
Shit, they are too.
And then yeah, you actually shift click them. Yeah, they're so stupid, man.
God.
Great drop on the left, by the way, and yeah, good to see you just drowning him. Lots of barracks, 2 factories, a starport. You know, one thing I would say is when you're ahead or when you're against mech or against the turtle player, I'd be doing a bit more throwing down 4 command centers in like a nice neat grid here for orbitals, and I would also go, oh, I'm going to build CCs on location. It just saves so much APM from moving them over. So I really like building like CCs in the corner whenever I've got a lot of map control in a game. Because if I get away with it, it just is like a really low APM way of, oh, cool, I got a planetary up in the corner, get fucked. But if my opponent doesn't spot it going up and then it's a planetary, it's so hard for them to get rid of. And it's way less APM intensive than building a CC and floating it over and then upgrading it. That shit takes so much attention and time. And in late game, it's a real strain. So whenever I've got a bit of map presence, part of that whole let's expand faster for me is like, let's also just drop CCs on location and get really far ahead.
Alrighty. Yeah, I think the whole like dropping the hammer on CC production, I'm always late on it. Like my fourth is late, 5th, and then all these spammy orbitals that I do after the 4th base is usually around when I want to, you know, with that many bases, that's when I'm going to start spamming orbitals because I'm maxed out.
It's super late game macro.
Here.
Yeah, I mean it's like it's such late game macro that I don't think it's like the most important thing. Because, right, like early game's high value, right? Late game is like, you know, realistically you should be building advantages in the early and mid game because you can repeat that a lot more times in ladder in practice than you can the 17-minute drop 5 orbital thing, you know? Like, how often is that the decider in a game? Not very. We're talking about aggression and stuff and how that all goes wrong. But, I mean, generally, this is pretty good. Like, you just keep sieging up these angles, which is nice. And I'd just keep grabbing the army from the rally and then sending it down the other side of the map, right? That's kind of how I overwhelm my opponents. Like, okay, let's go siege up on that base. All right, once that siege, grab the next army from the rally, send it around the north, siege the top side again. And that's basically what you're doing here. Yeah, you do it here on the left, which is great. This is basically the classic fundamentals of what you should be doing in TvT. We can see your production definitely could have ramped up a little bit more, but you do start adding these extra barracks, and then it's like, okay, 4 tanks, 15 marines, and you've even got the BC transition slowly happening behind it, which is very good to see. You get to this economy, you want to ensure yourself against, you know, letting the game slip away from a few bad engagements. BC is definitely the way to use that economy advantage, man. So that was awesome. All right, that was a pretty good one, dude. So should we hop into another game and another replay? Do you want to play a live game versus someone?
I will. Yeah, actually, can I play a live game? I feel like I get a little bit more from that.
Cool, man. Let's do it.
Great.
Let's do it.
So yeah, does anyone want to face me in glorious combat?
What's your MMR at the moment? Like 44?
I actually have no idea. 44.
Oh, sorry, like 30, 39. It's 39.
Yeah, I have to check my. I honestly have no idea. Yep.
Anyone who's around 3900 on NA, guys, come and hop in channel Maynarde in game. To do that, of course, /join space Maynarde. Once you're in there, you will see me and Maynarde in the channel. Maynarde, you can already host up a lobby if you want. Do you want to? I guess make it Australia would be good.
If it's an Australian opponent.
Give yourself the advantage either way, eh? Hey, yeah. Up to you. But yeah.
I'll just go big. I'll just go best match. I don't give a shit.
Cool. All right. Well, we need a turn. I wouldn't go best match. I would go west if you want to, you know. Don't be rolling that dice on US East, man. Jesus, that shit is scary.
I roll it every day. I click that rank button, pig. All right, I'll host on Australia then. Who wants to play me on Australia?
Let's go. You could also just ladder game won't ensure we get a Terran. Sorry, I was gonna say, you could just queue ladder and I can like watch the stream. It's only a slight delay, and then I'm like, no, that's dumb. You'll get a Zerg or a Protoss or something. But yeah, I think this is like the best habit you could form for this is if you can, while we wait for an opponent, if you can make a habit of like looking at the notes and just visualizing those 2 push timings in TvT, and also just like double checking problem scenarios like, oh, it's mech, I fucking hate mech. Anytime you feel the trigger, right, I'm fucking mad, to just double check if you actually executed your reaction the way you're meant to, right? And then you can start steadily conforming and practicing your reaction to make sure, okay, we got the 3 starports quicker this game, won the Viking battle, Siege lives on his tanks, and actually it felt really fucking good, and mech looked really bad, and you know, it'll take a bunch of games to get that result, but as long as you just keep checking the replays against that list in the document, and if you make a habit of just like visualize the build order a little bit, those 2 timings, that's when you're pushing out, try and decisively kind of grab the game by the reins every TvT at those points. Hopefully we can give you a bit more control from the early game and hopefully get some better results.
Okay. Well,
Fuck is Mikasa saying I'm 3.9k? Oi! No, you aren't, mate. Just put me up, me down, Lepsid up. I think Lepsid is Terran. Let's double check. Diamond 3 Terran 3600 sounds good.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, man. Yeah, whenever you're ready. Good luck, guys. All right, kick some ass, man. So right now, yeah, just think about it. 2 Ravens, 3 tanks, whatever units you have. Push across. Do a scan ahead as you get to their base. Maybe send a Marine or a Hellion ahead to make sure you're not, running into his army when you're not looking. You can always, of course, follow command your Ravens on your tanks. is a nice way to make sure they don't fly too far ahead. And yeah, and then once we get stim and medevacs out, I believe is what we wrote down as the marker for the second push. Yeah, stim and first medevacs will be when we look for the second push to siege up on the third base. So
first push is without medevacs, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, it's literally like you won't have stim or anything. It's just whatever hodgepodge of units you have from the early game plus 2 ravens and 3 tanks. So as the third tank comes out, second raven comes out, you just go across the map. Just focus on your normal build order. I'll remind you to do those push timings. Otherwise, I'll shut the fuck up as much as possible. And I'll just try to tell you to do stuff at the key moments and not constantly talk in your ear. So good luck, man. Get in your groove.
Thanks, mate.
All right, guys. So, I mean, I look at the huge amount of notes we've written here in the document.
I don't know if Pig's muted me or not.
I tend to leave it so we can hear you.
Okay.
So
okay.
if you're like, fuck, I did it. I fucking ruined the build. Fuck. I tend to just mute myself while I'm writing notes and stuff.
Okay. Shh. All right, chat. You guys be quiet. It's going to play ladder.
Whoa.
It's a ladder game. It's a custom game. You know what I mean?
Is Maynard's friend Chad over? Why is he talking to his friend Chad? The fudge? Yeah, I think honestly, Maynard's, you know, what coaching's got to do here, part of it is like, and you guys see me doing this with a lot of my students recently, is they're like, I don't know what to do, tell me what to do. And you'll notice there's a big pattern here of me going, well, we need to just make a choice. So like, what's the problem? And it's much more about getting the player to tell me what the problem is, right? If they can't even identify the problem, how are they ever going to progress as a StarCraft player, right? Because you're always going to come into new problems, right? So we want to kind of work on systematically problem solving. That's what my coaching tends to focus on, rather than just trying to give you a cheat sheet. Because a cheat sheet expires every time there's a patch or a new meta, or every time everyone starts playing differently on the ladder. So what we're trying to do, especially with like making sure Maynard was trying to think a bit more about his build, visualize his build. He hasn't started a barracks unit yet. Oof. Oh, that was late. Does he always do that? That's actually not too bad if he wants to go the really fast factory as stand. Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. With this build, that's okay. I don't mind that. If you're going 2 Reaper Hellion, you're going to wait for the Hellion anyway, delay the first Reaper because you keep it at home. That's actually, yeah, I'm fine with that. That's all right. Thank you so much, Mizar, for the 6-month resub, as well as Les 12 Pool, Neuropog, iPig, right, Yeet 30 months. Thank you guys. Welcome back to the Pigsty, friendos. I appreciate it. Mizar just got the GM sub badge, which is awesome. You're watching to improve your coaching skills for employees at work. Glad to hear it, RJ at FC. So yeah, basically, I feel like you know, it's like man, I was like, you know, I play against mech, I just F10N, I don't know what to do. You know, I don't have a plan. And I really tried to impart that hey, this is a cop-out. This gets us nowhere. This is like counterproductive thinking. You know, like what does an excuse give us, right? It's like, I don't know what to do. It's like,
what do I do now? I've forgotten.
It's like, okay, cool. Let's choose what we should do now, right? Let's define it better to make sure we do it better the next time. So something we want to kind of train here, hopefully with this replay, by giving some direct feedback after the game. So he should be starting a cyclone and then a third gas. Oh, he's oh yeah, I don't like the way he moved these units in. Okay. Because he should have been starting the third gas and the cyclone and stuff before going in here. Oh, very nice. It's a game winner. He's gone back to macro, which is good. Still hasn't started his third gas.
Your pretty little add-ons ready.
Third gas. Opening hiccups was one thing that happened here. Practice game versus Lepsid. Opening hiccups. I don't know what I'm doing here. So, if this ever happens, just make sure you review that part of the build immediately in the replay. Review and mentally visualize / rehearse how you do it next time. And then the problem
Shit.
will...
Depots, Maynard.
drastically-
Rip.
That's... What? Did he just supply drop? It's perfectly fine. That depot's on time. There's no problem there. It's the slightest of supply blocks. It's an almost perfectly timed depot. So the opening hiccup was a problem. Obviously he forgot third depot and a few things like that. From this point, he's put a few marine spotters out, which is nice. You're doing really good. Just keep doing your macro as you normally do. And remember that as soon as this second Raven and third tank pop, we're just going to gather all of our units. We're going to go for a frontal push. But remember, we don't want to like be staring at that army until it gets to his side of the map. So we want to send it to like his watchtower or maybe his third base. And we just want to keep macroing really hard in the meantime. So you can already start gathering your units, but most importantly, you know, getting these barracks down, all that stuff that you normally do. And your build order's really fucking nice this game. So just keep building depots, keep queuing up SCVs, and when you're ready, get those units just heading across to the staging point at his third base.
Okay.
So the important thing here is to like, those tanks should have already been on siege.
Second
These units
Raven's
should have
out.
already been at the
Okay.
front. He's taken a long time to move across the map.
Deselect. Hmm.
Come on, we're to get going. Got to get that push going. Yep, there we go. Got to unsiege those tanks. We left half our units behind.
Oh shit, we did too.
Okay, it's going to be a long time till they get there. Go to his third base. There's no reason to go to the watchtower. And keep macroing. So you've got a full 40 seconds before you get in position. Just macro, extra SCVs, depots, etc. As you get close to his third, that's where we can scan ahead or send a scout in and only then start really, really focusing on it.
Fucking.
So he's waiting for the tanks, and then he should just be a focused push. He scans, Raven first, A move the
I
ground
don't have
units.
stim.
Easiest push of his life. Of course he doesn't have stim. You don't need stim. Doesn't matter, even if it's starting now. So look at this. It's game winning. Game winning push. Alright. Just leave the units there. That's a problem for him to deal with. Double upgrades, armory, all your production, all your SCVs, gases. Once you've got the problem in position, we want to put as little APM into it as possible. We just want to focus really hard on your macro. Remember, once that siege up has been there for about a minute, minute and a half, we can just unsiege it and walk home. Because at that point, he could have enough units to dislodge it, and we'd rather save those units. But for now, it's just macro, macro, macro. You've bought yourself a ton of freedom. He's the one under the gun right now. And you can just get way ahead if we hit our macro. The number of times just a tight, non-stop Raven tank production push.
Thank
will
you for the
just
hype
get
train,
you a
by the way,
big
chat.
advantage
Appreciate it.
Is awesome. Hey, good on you guys giving him a hype train. Awesome. Good on you. Good on you guys over in Maynarde. Actually, I guess they can't hear me because I've muted myself. I'm dumb. I have a small brain. It's like the size of a pea.
Ah.
Now, you can look at that and get tilted, guys, or you can go, who the fuck cares? Doesn't matter, man. We are so far ahead right now. Oh, yeah. So, this production's freezing up a little bit. So you don't actually know if he's playing mech or bio, so just drop a scan on his production to check. And we know it's bio. Awesome. Just keep macroing your ass off. And remember, as these medevacs come out, we should be building them by now. Should be in combat shields. Medevac stim is going to be our next push timing.
The enemy's after your SCVs. SCVs are getting busted.
Damn. When's Blizzard going to do something about Vikings and how incredibly powerful they are?
This double lib is going to get him back in the game in a big way, guys. Lepsid knows when behind, liberate. Bring freedom to your opponents. I don't know where the other lib went, actually.
Oh.
Oh, it got caught by the cyclone and almost went down. Really slow reaction by Maynard.
What?
He pulled Vikings before pulling the SCVs away. Oh no, the first thing is always pull SCVs
Okay, this is
away.
the part of the TvT that I lose.
Left in that cluster.
You're infinitely ahead. You have so much room to recover. Just change your rally point back to your natural and keep macroing.
That's all the minerals you're getting out of that.
So he should have everything rallied to his natural, not his main right now. So those SCVs replenish. Let's let him find his own rhythm here. Obviously, he should be pushing across the map, but we're okay to delay that while we get on top of our macro, because we just dealt with some severe harassment. So let's take a look at Maynard's camera right now. All right, the microing a cyclone, super big waste of time. You're behind on your macro, so you need to stop wasting time on micro right now, and you need to keep fixing up your economy. So your main base, you need to change the rally point down to your natural.
Oh,
That's fine. You're all good. You've got a great SCV count. You're looking fantastic. We just need to get your macro sorted so that you can free up your APM to go push, because it's already past time for us to be doing our next push. We need to gather our whole army and get out on this map. Right now, we've lost all map control, so we need to make sure we don't get surprised by anything, and we need to just gather our army and be ready to fight. So like that Cyclone micro there was a massive waste of APM at a really critical point, guys. Microing a Cyclone to try to pick off a Marine, massive waste of APM. Massive.
Oh, those aren't Marines.
Liberator harass. Always pull the SCVs away first.
They're bashing the SCV.
After this harass, you needed to really take a second to fix...
How did I miss this?
Patience! Don't just fucking headbutt Maynard. Oh, he's so lucky that he sieged his tanks poorly. Just headbutting with no scan, once again. Ugh. Bad. He could have just lost the game there. If those tanks were sieged in the right position, he was just walked up the ramp and got his whole army annihilated.
No, I didn't lose my fourth. Great.
Oof. Oof, oof, oof. When he pushed, we didn't scan his army. Huge mistake. We stimmed into him. If his tanks were sieged
Oh my god.
properly, we would have got wrecked. That would have been
Just in, guys.
a big problem.
StarCraft's a hard game.
Upgrade complete.
So one thing here is he's taking a long time to send more Marine spotters out on the map. And doesn't have like, you know, turrets or anything. So it's like there should have been a bit higher priority on one of those. To be honest, I think if he just does his push timings correctly, that's pretty low priority. But it is definitely something which can hurt, right? We would have taken a really bad fight. But anyway, after this rest, you really need to take a second to fix your macro and then go push out as your push was delayed by your second push was delayed by the Liberator harassment. Microing a Cyclone right when macro plus map control plus moving out with our push should have been the priority. Did we already leave the game?
It's over. Yeah.
Did you rewind?
No.
Bad habit. Rewind every game, Maynard.
I actually normally do. For some reason, that customer didn't. All right.
Try to make sure, yeah. I go in the habit of doing it every game, and then I get out of it, and then I try to get myself back in it. So just always remind yourself to check one thing, right? That game was really good in many parts. Your first push absolutely dicked him. Obviously, you did too much damage before that with the Reaper Hellion. I mean, if we look at the start of this, just quickly giving a little bit of feedback for Mr. Lepsid over here, Mr. or Mrs. Lepsid. It looked like a really fucking weird opening from Lepsid, because this was a very late expand, but there's just no units for safety. So this is just not a good TvT opening, in my opinion. There's just a big window where anyone who does a Reaper Hellion pressure or 2 Reapers is always going to do big damage here. If you want to keep sticking with this build order, well, it's not the end of the world, but like we also, he forgot the 3rd depot. You both did. So there was like a gentleman's agreement on forgetting 3rd depot at the start of this game. Since you both delayed.
Forgotten depot. Shout out to the most forgotten depot of all time.
That 31 supply block, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to accept that that's just something that'll normally happen, well, number one, you got to make sure you hit that depot. Number two, don't go to the low ground. Just raise your ramp and hold the high ground as Lepsid, and just accept the CC is going to be delayed until your tank comes out. you can do it that way. The worst thing you can do is go down there, throw all your units away, keep sending SCVs down one at a time, and hand even more damage to your opponent. But beyond that point, your first push did great. You were macroing well behind it. Those Liberators caught you off guard a little bit, and that really put you into, I think, just made you lose track a little bit of where you were in the game. So, like, if you open up the stream, you can look at it from my point of view, just so I can easily show you real quick.
I'll open it up. Hang on. Hold it up. Hold it up.
No worries. I'm still fast forwarding to the right points. Because, I mean, obviously we had an edge already, but then when our push went in, we had a great push. Even though he, like, comes down and snipes a Raven, who cares? Like, it really doesn't matter. We could lose all these units and it would still be a huge win for us. So we get a nice quick 4th command center up. Potentially even too quick. That's not the end of the world, though. You were macroing pretty well. But I think that Viking land as well. He was like, oh, I need to do some desperate harassment. I'm in trubs. And then this Lib sieged up. I mean, we can look at this and say, okay, well, like maybe arguably we should have some Marine spotters, but it's still pretty early in the game. You're not going to have that much map control. I think we just needed to be a bit more organized with the Liberator pool, because if we look at your camera, we look at the natural and we don't pull the SCVs away. So I think we messed up our box is what happened there. Because you clicked 1 SCV, or maybe it was 2, and moved them away, and the rest just sat there. So I think you just misclicked a box. Okay, that's good, because that tells us that's just a misclick, rather than a conscious decision to look at your SCVs getting slaughtered and then look away and bring your Vikings over, which is what I initially thought had happened in the game. I was like, oh no, pull the SCVs out of there. So that was obviously, yeah.
When the Viking landed in my main, I honestly sat there and looked at it for 2 seconds before deciding what to do. Like it probably wasn't 2 seconds, but it felt like 2 seconds. I was just sitting there looking at it. Like,
I think it was 5. I think it might have been longer even. I do this as well. When it's something you're just not expecting at a moment you're not sure about, sometimes it's good to just remind ourselves to program a response in. Next time I see that, bam, bam, you know. I don't think the SCVs was a bad idea.
You don't?
It's just like pulling them to fight it. I mean, I don't... It killed... Yeah, I think that was the right response. Because your units weren't in position. I think you did the right response to the Viking. I think you just saw how many SCVs it killed and you got a bit triggered. But I think you had enough surface area for that to be worth it. I think if the Viking was in between the mineral patches, that's a fucking terrible choice, right? Moving the SCVs at it. Yeah. I mean, 5 SCVs, it was going to deny a fuckload of mining time and kill at least 3 or 4 SCVs anyway, no matter what, even if you ran away. That looks like the right response to me.
Okay.
Cool. So, I mean, you did fine on your natural, except for the misclick. We should have ran the SCVs away, of course. But this is a point where then this other lib comes in, and we're like, motherfucker, stop it. Stop it. Remember, that's a lot of gas. He's doing this as well because he's desperate after taking some big hits. This is the point where you needed to go, okay, he's just really throwing some chaos into my build. I need to focus hard on getting my macro back on track and getting my push going. Now, that's something that's brand new for you, is this push. But this is the moment where we should be pushing. Your medevacs are out. Stim's done. 1-1's done. Shields is about to be done. You got this lovely Marine tank force. This is just a great time for you to get across the map, right? And if you did, this game would have been a lot simpler for you to finish. Because as you can see, your supply is way higher. But I'm totally okay with you delaying this because there's a bit of chaos going with the macro. So if you took another 20 seconds to get your macro back on track, that would be good. But if we break down this moment here... Sorry, let's... Okay, we put SCVs back on mining on the 3rd. We tell our 4th to land. We queue up bio. We queue up tanks. We look at the front. We queue up bio. We go back to our command centers. We start some upgrades. 2-2 starts as we get the minerals for it. If I can move there. This is the point where we lose track of the important things to do. Always remember your saturation is going to be fucked after harassment, and that's like one of the things to focus on. Looking at the Cyclone was great, but I think we needed to immediately say this is not worth your time in your APM right now unless you've got everything else sorted. Because look at how many seconds you stare at this Cyclone, where we need to be fixing saturation on natural and getting our army and moving across the map. And instead we're kind of like running a Cyclone around, and then we look back and I can tell we've kind of lost track of what our focus was. Because you kind of just look at your 3rd and you look at your 4th. These are kind of low priority actions. Then we fix the saturation. We still haven't moved our army out, right? And this is just taking so long for us to get going. And we're kind of looking around and we're adding Marines and tanks. So we just needed a little bit more urgency with that push getting out. But we also just needed a little bit more of a methodical... after you've ever dealt with one of those chaotic Oh, it's in my main. My natural. My third. Anytime you feel that bam, 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 whether it be Zealot run by his DTs, Liberator harassment drops, always try to remind yourself to do a quick
No minerals left in
jump,
the cluster.
jump between your 3 bases and check that everything's okay. Because sometimes you'll have 15 SCVs on a gas. Sometimes, like in this case, all your workers are in the main, not the natural. You know, little things like that always happen in this scenario. So just try to give yourself like a mental habit of next time harassment fucks with you. Do you use camera hotkeys, by the way? I forget.
Yeah. Yep.
Just check 3 bases for for 5 seconds and make sure your shit's good. Like, you actually did really good most of your macro. We just forgot the saturation, and then we took a bit long to move out. The other final thing here in this game was when he pushed you. Now, he surprised you. We were a bit behind from those Liberators. It was a nice opportunistic move out for him. Fair enough. Shit happens. So obviously, one of the things when we gathered our army is we also should have been sending Marine spotters out. And I think you sent a few out, but we would have been like 2 Marines, 2 Marines, 2 Marines, kind of, all over the map, wherever.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, obviously my Marines weren't on the right attack paths. When he got my watchtower, I guess that's when he moved through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he pushed the Cyclone away and then came down.
Yep.
Now, you were surprised by this push, and you went, what the fuck, how did he get there? And you actually said that out loud, and this is where we did a Maynard. Unfortunately, you did not have vision down here. Really? You could kind of see some stuff, but with where your screen was, there's no way you knew that he wasn't all sieged up there in the shadows. And you just kind of stemmed and A-moved it. And don't get me wrong, easy to make this mistake under pressure when he appears out of nowhere at your third. But it was one of those situations where I just wish instinctively muscle memory scan got triggered. As you stim, A-move, you scan ahead and check. And it turned out it was fine, but just imagine if those 3 tanks in the back were kind of sieged over just behind the rocks or kind of just to the, this little area, then that would have been really big because they would have slaughtered your Marines coming up the ramp. So just one of those things where every time we're interacting with our opponent, moving into his territory or reacting to him moving into our territory, I just want to see more scans used, and you definitely had the energy. So yeah, we could have done it. So I think that's just like a bit of muscle memory. Every engagement, every interaction, scan, like a psychopath.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool, man. I think overall, obviously it looked better. This was an easy scenario. You are meant to lose and fuck up your first few times doing the Raven tank push and doing the secondary push. You had a massive advantage this game. So your latter games, you're going to fuck it up the first few times, the Ravens and tanks, and you're going to overextend and take a bad fight and lose your units when you shouldn't, when you should just pull back, right? And you're going to be too careful, and you're going to be a bit of a pussy and not go in when your opponent's actually got his pants down and you could just win the game with it. So just keep working on it. Make sure you look back at the replays, benchmark when it hits. So in this game, let's benchmark those 2 pushes. That's the most important thing. So when did your first push hit? What units did you have? That sort of stuff. Let's go fast forward. When do we get up to that base? All right, so I'm going to get you to write this one down. Down the bottom of our notes.
Uh-huh.
And if you make a habit of doing this on stream, this is so helpful. I've been doing this the last few weeks, especially with my TVZ.
I have to open up your stream again then to have a look because I'm not in the replay.
No, in your Google Drive doc. Yeah.
To know the timing, I mean.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes. Of course. But basically, benchmarks. So this replay, it is game timer, unit count, etc. So it looks like 5 Marines, 3 tanks, a Cyclone, and a Reaper.
Why is Twitch? Hang on, Twitch just went funny buggers for a second then. Okay. Okay, so what's moving out like what 6:30? Is that one?
I prefer the time you hit, because then you punish. Then you're much more strict on yourself if you fuck around on the map, which a lot of people do. A lot of people spend 20, 30 seconds, sometimes a full minute running around the map for no reason. So it's when we actually attack, which is 6 minutes 50 this game, 6:47, whichever one. So you can write down at the bottom of the page 2, we've got benchmarks. So benchmark exactly what this push hits with and what time.
6:45. Oh, sorry. When I hit.
Yeah. That's fine.
I hit 650.
3 tanks.
So was that 3
and
tanks,
5
5
Marines.
Marines, 2
Yep.
Ravens?
2 Ravens, a Cyclone, and a Reaper. Funny little unit set, but that's kind of what this usually looks like. The other important thing is to check that sometimes you'll hit this 6 minutes 10 super crisp. You're like, oh, fuck yeah. But that's why we need to double check. So if you can make a second list below that one, we're going to also benchmark the macro. So we can, here we go. I'll do a little sub point for you. Okay, there you go.
All right.
So if you just write in that sub point, so it is 46 SCVs. We have stim started. We're going up to 4 barracks. A little bit awkward actually that we were starting a 4th, but not a 5th.
I was meant to start the 4th and the 5th at the same time, but I think I misclicked or
didn't have the money or something. Okay, cool. As long as it's an accident, that's cool.
it's meant
Yeah.
to be 5.
Your eBays are about to finish. So eBays are just about to finish. 3rd base just landed.
And I'll say 4th and 5th barracks.
Yeah.
Just landed.
Cool. So that's really good because then, yeah, sometimes you hit it really crisp and you feel really good. And if you don't check the macro, you don't realize you cut 7 SCVs that game because you're so focused on the Raven tank production and everything else going on. And you're like, oh shit, this is actually not that impressive. So yeah, just benchmark that when you hit. And we can also benchmark your second push, which in this game literally never happened. So let me, second push. He pushed us. So I think it would have, I guess you did leave the base. So we can just write down what we left the base with, right? Before he came in on our 3rd, which is gonna be, he's moving out. We're gathering up. We're moving out.
I moved back the tanks, but leave some bio out there. I think that's what I did.
Okay, so we're leaving the base at 10:45. And we'll just write down the total unit count.
Hang on.
Oh, you didn't write down the Cyclone. No worries.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, just write down the second push as well here. So you leave the base 10:45. Normally we'd mark when we hit, or when we siege up on their 3rd. But obviously in this game we can't do that since we got pulled back. So 10 tanks. Sorry, not 10 tanks. 5 tank. It is 10 tanks. Yeah, 10 tanks, 50 Marines, 5 Vikings, and 2 Medevacs, 68 SCVs. And 2-2 is 1/3 of the way done, roughly. 4th base just landed. Awesome. This is really good, right? The power of this is forcing us to look at what we're doing game plan wise in a void departed from what our opponent's doing. So it's going to allow you to improve every game, win or lose. If you win a game and your benchmark is fucking shit, it gives you more motivation to improve than, oh, I won the game. And likewise, if we lose the game but our benchmark is good, we go, okay, there's other things at work here. No worries, at least I'm hitting my benchmark good and I'm improving at that aspect. So I can still count this as a win. We want to move the goalpost a little bit. Same thing you do with your focus goals. It's win or lose, it's great obviously to win, but it's secondary to let's actually improve at this aspect. So I think these 2 push timings, benchmark those. That's the core of your new TvT. Making sure you try to hit those as crisp as possible. And that's going to give you a direction to exert this insane macro that you go for every game on your opponent rather than sitting back and letting them, just run around being a dickhead all game. We want to be the dickhead to them.
Okay.
I want people to rage at you, Maynard. I want people to call you names
So do
after
I,
you
dude. It
dick
makes me
them.
feel. I had the PSA in my chat yesterday. This was casting replays, and they had an angry boy in that replay. And
Nice.
it was a PSA to everyone, watching my stream right now that maybe didn't see yesterday, or everyone watching Pig's stream right now. If you rage at your opponent, I think the intention is to make your opponent feel worse, but I can guarantee you it makes them feel better. You're not achieving what you want.
There is 1 in 300 people who will make a Reddit thread and they're like, people are so mean.
Yeah.
But everyone else is like, oh, fuck yes. And the best
Hell
is
yeah.
when someone calls you a cheater.
Oh my god,
That's
it's so good.
my fave.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So if you want to enhance your opponent's win, then by all means get upset when they do.
Oh yeah. Let me just mark this. End of coaching. Fantastic. I'm gonna raid Artosis. Pylon show starts in 4 minutes.
Yep.
I'm done for the day. So yeah, dude, good sesh. Lots of notes. Hit those timings, and hopefully, 2 Ravens, 3 tanks result in a lot of dead Terran players.
Hell yeah.
Awesome, man. All right, good night, brother. Or good day, as I should say,
Yeah,
since
good
it's
day.
like just
We
past
are
midday.
both in Australia.
Indeed.
All
All right, man. Have a good night. Good day.
Bye.
Fuck. God damn it. GG. Laters, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging, guys. I appreciate the support. Yeah, I really want to see Maynard get to the next level in that matchup. Can his opening be held by a Reaper expand? Yeah, it's called a bunker. Lab said you need a bunker. If you're just doing a barracks gas, just that. Likewise, if you're going gas first, you can just get really crisp factory timing, really crisp swap over, start 2 Hellions immediately, and you might lose the SCV on the command center very briefly, but then you can, or the SCV at the natural, but then your 2 Hellions are out and you get to take him to Dicktown.